In this video, we're going to be taking a look at Subnautica, which is an open-world, underwater survival adventure game that's currently in early access. We're going to be specifically focusing on the role of oxygen, which, as you might imagine, should be a very important variable for a game that takes place underwater. Let's go ahead and get started. The game starts inside a life pod that has just escaped the crash landing of the starship Aurora. When the player steps out into the water, you can see an indicator in the bottom left showing the player's oxygen supply, which starts at 45 seconds. A new player might look around and think, there's more deep water than I can safely explore in 45 seconds. What options do I have to increase my range? At the fabricator, we see the oxygen tank, which increases capacity from 45 to 75 seconds, and a series of pipes and pumps which can be used to pump oxygen down below the surface of the water. Later in the game, the player can upgrade their oxygen tank, and they gain access to a device called the rebreather. But rather than explore the effectiveness of these tools, let's first conduct an experiment to determine their necessity. We'll step outside and start swimming towards the deepest point that we can see from the life pod, which has a depth of about 80 meters. Now let's imagine that the player has found something interesting and they've totally forgotten about their oxygen supply. When they hear the 10-second warning, they panic and swim straight for the surface. It looks like the player should drown here, since they are still 35 meters beneath the surface when the oxygen meter reaches 0. It turns out that there's an extra 10 seconds of blacking out between 0 oxygen and drowning, thereby increasing the player's effective range from 45 seconds to 55 seconds. The next question to ask is, does the player have enough range already to make meaningful progress, or are they given sufficient motivation to build oxygen tools? To find out, let's first build a few useful items using the resources we can already safely reach. We'll start by gathering resources for fins to increase swim speed, a knife to collect vines and coral, and a scanner to unlock blueprints. With those tools at hand, let's see if we can extend our range without building oxygen tools. The next objective is the Sea Glide, a handheld propeller that will greatly increase our speed. Luckily, the starting life pod spawned near some wreckage, so we're able to find Sea Glide fragments fairly quickly. However, even if the starting location were further away, it's important to note that this wreck site, and many others like it, sit at around 30 meters below the surface, well within our safe operating range. With the Sea Glide fragments scanned, we'll gather a few more resources and then head back to base. In addition to the Sea Glide, we can also gather resources for a radiation suit, which would allow us to safely explore the Aurora crash site. conduct another experiment to determine our new range with the sea glide. I've used a console command to warp to a location with deeper water, and I'll use another command in a moment to increase the brightness. Here, we'll hover at 150 meters deep, wait for the 10-second warning, and then swim for the surface. Once again, the blackout timer substantially increases our maximum depth. We're still at 65 meters deep when the oxygen meter reaches 0, and yet we can still reach the surface alive. The next tech option that increases our mobility is the sea moth. If the player knows where to look, they are guaranteed to be able to find the components necessary to construct a sea moth without needing to dive deeper than the new 150 meter safe range. For the sake of brevity, I've used a console command to spawn a sea moth. The sea moth has an unlimited oxygen supply as long as it is powered. It starts with a maximum depth of 200 meters. If we combine this with the range of the sea glide, we can easily collect resources at 300 meters, which gives us access to many different biomes and more than enough resources to make meaningful progress. To summarize, the player's exploration range gradually increases by building fins, a sea glide, sea moth, and eventually the pressure compensator, prawn suit, and cyclops. Each of these tools can be used to safely access the resources required to unlock the next item in the sequence, even without ever building an oxygen tank or an air pump. One obvious remedy would be to increase the depth at which these resources become available. The problem is that this would dramatically slow down the rate at which new items are unlocked and would make the game feel more tedious as a result. Instead, we could reduce the starting lung capacity from 45 seconds to 30 seconds, and decrease the blackout timer from 10 seconds to 5 seconds. This change would cause two positive outcomes. First, the player's expectation of danger will be much closer to the actual level of danger they are exposed to. As such, oxygen management becomes a real problem for the player to solve, rather than a variable that can just be ignored entirely. Second, if the player makes an early investment in an oxygen tank, they will feel that they are being rewarded for that decision each time they acquire a new resource near the limit of their exploration range. They might think to themselves, "Good thing I brought this tank, or I never would have been able to reach that shiny thing." This thought currently doesn't occur in Subnautica because the starting oxygen supply and blackout timer are too generous. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I look forward to your feedback.